All right, guys, welcome to the Star Trek Art Department Starship's creation panel. I'm Captain Foley from Trekyards.
And Mark from Trekyards.
Rick Sternbach from the Star Trek franchise from eons ago.
The reason we're here is because our show, Trekyards, we highlight these designers and their fantastic creations and all the ships they create for Star Trek. So,
this is one of the best. This is the most, in my opinion, most legendary. Not my Jeffries, but Casa TOS. So many amazing designs and just a genius, and it's going to be a great guy to listen to. Ask questions to. So take questions now. I think you have a little slide. Yeah.
All right. Well, okay. What I will do is walk to that podium, and I will show you just a selection of the things that we did on the various shows that I worked on. So.
And near the end, we're going to open up to questions. So if you have any questions, you'll be able to ask.
Okay, I'm starting with this shot of the Runabout because it really is it's a good sample of the sorts of sketches that were produced in the art department before handing off drawings and blueprints. I did all my own blueprints. I wanted to make sure everything was like, just pencil perfect before handing it off to the CG guys or the physical model makers. And we kept in very close touch with both the CG and the physical model creators, just to give them specs on all the different pieces and parts, and kept everybody in the loop while these things were being made. Now this is an early sketch of Starfleet Runabout. If you know the Runabout, you know it doesn't look like this, but this was just one step in the process. This is a color version of it. Runabouts, we went into the sort of bluish, grayish color scheme as opposed to the more tan colors of the smaller shuttles. So these were, Runabout was really to be considered more as a real starship. It had a warp capability unlike some of the other smaller ships. The producers wanted those signature nacelles. That previous sketch, you didn't see the nacelles. They wanted the nacelles in there. This was one version where you got to see them. Parts were shifted around. Where to put the impulse engine, where to put all of the other things that a good Starfleet ship needs. So if you look at this, you'll see it's got the transporter emitters, it's got phaser strips, it's got the Bassard collectors, those pinkish collector domes. It's got what we call a pancake warp reactor up on the roof. While this thing was, just to give you an idea of what we went through on designing the exteriors, the set designers already had the cockpit nailed when this thing was being sketched up. So I had to follow the cockpit forward windows, the side windows, the entry hatch. So I worked off of their interior blueprints and made sure that the exterior had all the same parts in the right locations. The rest of it could be almost anything. Now, you know that there was a lounge section in the back, sort of a conference table thing. That's way in the back, as you can see. There was what we call a swappable cargo module in the center. And one of the Deep Space Nine illustrators, Jim Martin, contributed a lot of the external the texture, the little parts, and I kind of put the whole thing together in a blueprint for the model builders. In one episode, we had to have an additional little AWACS antenna. Two runabouts were chasing each other, so the producers wanted us to show, okay, who's chasing who, and they wanted to show the differences between two runabouts. So that's where little sketches like this come in. Voyager, Voyager was like a 5-month cycle of trying to get the producers to tell us exactly what they were looking for. Little sketches, you know, would some things would get approved, some things would get X'd out, and it starts with something like this. And you can see the Runabout down there, and there's the size difference.
Can I jump in there, Rick?
Yeah.
I've got a question about that.
Yeah.
You know how you have to go faster stripes? Are those go faster fins?
The fins, okay. those were sort of a nod to an artist pal of mine, Dave Dietrich. He did a couple of Starships with some really tall, like radiator fins. These could be shield generators, radiators, who knows what. You know, I take a lot of my references from the animal world, and I thought, you know, an orca has this wonderful tall fin, and I just borrowed that. The other thing I kept in mind was something that Robert Heinlein, the science fiction author, told me back in the early 70s. Give the editors something to delete. Yeah, so the fins were there, you know, if the producers wanted them, fine, if not, fine. And those were X'd out. And this was an intermediate version using a little bit of the Runabout styling, okay? Voyager was described in the show Bible as, you know, a smaller, faster, leaner ship with a smaller crew. Well, the only other ships we had to work from at the time were things like the Enterprise D, the Galaxy class, and the Runabout. So I was borrowing bits and pieces from both of those to make this. Again, a step in the design process. Here's sort of an aft view. Again, every little thing that a good Federation ship needs, or a good Starfleet ship needs. It's got the nacelles, the phasers, the power transfer conduits, and again, not all of this needed to be explained, but it was good to be able to put them into the drawings just in case something came up in the script way down the line. Shuttle bay, reactor, sensors, auxiliary deflector, the bridge, the RCS thrusters. You go into the lineage of big Starfleet ships, and you'll see all of these little pieces and parts. In things like the tech manual that for TNG that Pocketbooks published, we got to explain tons of that stuff, and that's good as a sort of an add-on product to the episodes that you got to see on video. You know, if you want to read more about it, we gave folks the chance to look at all of this stuff, look at all the subsystems, see what alloys they were made of, and you know, it was just, you know, a fun secondary thing to the actual episodes.
And this is quite a different version to the final Voyager. How far through the process was this? How many weeks, months, days, years?
A couple of months in. Like I said, it was a 5-month thing. We got to do a lot of work over season hiatus. So like the vacation time between Next Generation and the start of Voyager, you know, we had a couple of months off. But I was doing doodles on Next Generation script pages when we were still in production. And that's where it starts. Doodle, 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 refine it, sharpen up the drawings. We got into a mock-up. We even got into a mock-up here. Something the producers could walk around and talk about. They looked at this, and Jerry Taylor, one of our producers, I will do anything for this woman because she understands Trek. She understood the techie things that we were trying to do. And Jerry pulled me aside, looking at this model, and she said, "Can you make it a little curvier, kind of like a Lexus?" I said, "Jerry, for you, anything." And that's how the spoon came out. That's how Voyager came out. You know, a lot of our producers will say, well, you know, this looks like, and then fill in the blank. And we had to tell them, look, everything looks like something. But we made, you know, we made our design choices, we did the blueprints, we got things approved, and this was the final, you know, the final CG version of Voyager. I would have been happier with the more angular looking ship. A lot of people say, oh yeah, I like that one better than the one that came out. Fine, you know, but you know, I think this is still a valid, you know, it's a valid concept. It works in all of the techie things that we on the show understood and loved and, you know, helped the writers with. This is a beauty shot by our late visual effects producer, Gary Hutzel. We lost him a few months back, and Gary was an absolute ace at visual effects. He knew his stuff. This particular photograph of Voyager, I think he shot this with a 4x5 camera. Every lighting setup was different. The deflector got one pass, one exposure. The little photon torpedo launchers got another exposure. The beauty lighting on, you know, coming from the port side, another exposure. So these were all multiple shots in the camera, and they come out looking like, you know, one of our visual effects shots. So, you know, I raise a glass to Gary for, you know, all the things he did for us. Details. Details, details, details. The fans love the stuff. I love putting the things in. Mike Okuda and Doug Drexler put on a lot of the exterior hull markings. You know, Mike was in charge of things like the registry numbers, little things like the what we call the parentheses, or the phaser strips, the transport emitters. They were all like you know, rub-on decals, and these were all things that had to be added to this model. This final model was 5 feet long, and they followed my blueprints, which were 5 feet long. Tony Meininger and his company Brazil for Application back in Los Angeles. Tony's guys did Voyager, they did the Runabout model, and you know, we've had you know, a great number of terrific model makers over the years. Greg Jean, who's well known for things like Close Encounters and Hunt for Red October. Greg has also built a number of our ships for us. So again, you don't have to know what all of this stuff is, but the producers trusted us to know it.
Now, Rick, I have a question.
Yeah.
When you add detail, is it just for detail's sake, or is each one thought out?
You're asking me that. I love the engineering. I put the stuff in because, to me, the details that I put in make sense. Okay. You know, I've absorbed a lot of engineering and science from a lot of really, really smart people over the years. My dad was an architect. Put the pencil in my hand at a very young age. And I got to understand things like how a steam locomotive works, how all these parts go together. You know, can we apply those same sort of engineering ideas to future spaceships? Sure, we do it all the time. A lot of movie spaceships are astoundingly well thought out because the model makers are into this stuff. The CG guys are into this stuff. You know, as somebody who provides designs, I'm into this stuff. So you can see, you know, especially with the shot of the bridge here. You look at this bridge, and then you look at the interior set. The bridge module here was was scaled directly off of the set blueprints the set designers were doing in the art department at Paramount. So everything is properly to scale. The center portion of the bridge, the conference lounge, Janeway's ready room, you know, it's all properly to scale.
So were the interior sets built first and then designed around that, or was the ship already kind of established when it started?
You know, the outside of the ship, the basic external configuration of the ship was nailed. So I took the blueprints that Richard James and the set designers were doing and scaled it and made them fit right on top of deck 2 and
Just tweaked it.
Well, we made everything fit. Okay, we made it all fit. We knew that we had a certain size for the sets on the stage, and luckily they all fit right on top of the miniature.
Do you want to put your hands up if you love the Voyager design? Okay, pretty good. Okay, what about DS9? You love DS9? Hands up. Okay. Constitution class, original 1960s Enterprise. Hands up. Okay, done.
Runabout?
Refit. Movie refit.
Like, so do I just leave my hand in the air?
You're welcome. Continue. Okay. Let's see what this is. Random time ship. Oh.
Scotty has worked his magic.
Yeah, that should be good. Come on. I'll just show you a couple more things, and then you know, we can get on to Q&A and so forth. This was a Voyager escape pod. The guys on DS9 also borrowed it for the Defiant. So that was a great reuse of it. This was a little ship that we never got to see. It's called Aero Shuttle, and it was kind of like a captain's yacht on Voyager. Well, they built the Delta Flyer instead, and we told them, but we had this little ship already there. Well, you know, never saw it.
Real missed opportunity.
Yeah,
It's a cool
yeah.
ship.
But even wants to come back with one, so we are
Yeah, and the guys at Foundation Imaging, who did a lot of our CGI, they worked out the top details of the thing. They even did a test video of it deploying. But one of the movies, I think it was Insurrection, they had a captain's yacht, so they didn't want to, you know, go and duplicate that. So the Aero Shuttle, you know, talk about your engineering obsessiveness. Some of us got to thinking that maybe what you saw underneath the Voyager hull wasn't really the Aero Shuttle, but just a test fitting of the external plates. Okay, and but because Voyager had to scamper out to the Badlands and then disappeared before it got its final equipment. So you know, you could sort of make a retro case for this not existing.
Well, I have interest. Who's actually seen that design before? Aero Shuttle. Okay, well, who likes that design? There we go.
I like it too. Now, the great thing about this is in scale, especially look at the cockpit. It's very much like the Runabout. We could have used the Runabout cockpit set. However, you know, production realities back at the studio said, no, the producers wanted to keep the shows very separate. So we never really got to mix and match a lot of pieces and parts. And that's, you know, as I tell people, look, it's not my sandbox. It's their sandbox, and we are amazingly lucky to play in it once in a while. So again, more details. These were, there's the main deflector. Again, using the Galaxy class deflector as a model for things. We could have gone out on location and built this enormous landing foot. Would have cost a fortune. But this is the Voyager landing legs to scale the ship. Shuttles, we've done lots and lots of shuttlecraft over the years. Even interiors, okay, the producers wanted a smaller, faster, sleeker little shuttle. We came up with a thing called a speedboat. And this was a future version of the speedboat that Admiral Janeway used in the final episode. So this to me is one of the final steps that we got to do on Voyager in terms of evolving the shapes, starting with Next Generation, and for some of us even going back to some of the styles and the shapes that we saw in the original series, in some of the movies before we started Next Generation. Things slowly evolved. The shapes, some of the shapes changed, and you can see that if you look at, especially with the little die-cast ships that Eaglemoss is doing. You can look at the ships over time and see that we really did try to evolve things. And now you go online and there are lots and lots of folks who, they have their computers at home, they have the model kits, they are taking Star Trek styling out to new levels. And I'm just happy to see that a lot of people are, they're experimenting with Trek styles, they're experimenting with ship styling and CG and model making. So with that, I'm going to cut it off. This gives you just a nice sample of the sorts of things that we were drawing and building at the studio.